well, why don't you just feed this guy and put on the mask and walk around, we'll pay you a little bit of money, and then you'll be here the whole time. And I said, good deal. And here I am 49,000 years later.
Tommy, what about you?
Well, John Carpenter and I grew up in the same town, same grade school, same high school. So I guess I caught up with him finally after things happened, college and stuff.
Is that considered nepotism?
Yeah, of the highest order. Actually, I was the only affordable person available for the jobs he wanted to do. My price was right. Anyway, it started in film school where everybody helps out on everybody else's film. And John's student film, you might say his thesis film, turned into his first feature, which I helped on. And then it was, by the time we got to Halloween, he asked me if I would edit it and be the production designer. An odd combination, don't try it at home. It doesn't work. You don't have time to sleep.
And I was watching Sean from the Hologround showed the footage of you spray painting and making the mask.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked about how you had no idea what the job of production designer was because you were scouting locations, you were doing all this stuff in production.
I was doing the cars,
Yeah.
and with Nancy, the costumes, and it was just like a four-man art department that did everything.
Yeah.
License plates, you name it.
Yeah.
Props.
Okay, Charles, how about you? How did Halloween come to you?
I first. That's all right. I can be your technician. I first worked for John in Assault on Precinct 13. And,
Give it up for Assault on Precinct.
and then I sort of became part of his repertory company. And 5 or 6 movies later, or 7, it was great. And I never did work with Tom in terms of a director, but that could be coming. You never know.
We got a lot of time left.
Yeah, sure.
Dean, how about you? By the way, I want to give some credits that this guy has worked on as a cinematographer. You are in the presence of one of the greatest cinematographers on the planet. You're here. Not only, I'm absolutely serious.
Who's that guy behind you, Dean?
Which planet?
Is the check to be clear, Dean? No, not only did he do 5 John Carpenter films, he also did Halloween 2. He did Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, one of the most criminally underrated movies of all time. Come for the panel tomorrow at 11:30 for the Halloween. There's going to be 75 people up here from Halloween 3, and it's going to be a blast. And I'm going to be doing the moderation for that. But he did 5 films for Carpenter. He did films for Robert Zemeckis, including groundbreaking movies. He did all 3 Back to the Futures, this guy. He shot Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which, how challenging is that to be a cinematographer on that movie? And then he would go on to do more challenging movies with Spielberg and so on and so forth. He shot Jurassic Park, Apollo 13. He shot Roadhouse. That movie kicks ass. But I just wanted to say the credits for this guy is just, and there's more, I didn't even scratch the surface. One of the best directors of photography of all time. How did Halloween come to you, Dean?
Well, let me start at the beginning, maybe. I was 12 years old. Is that too far back?
No, we got all day.
No, actually, I graduated from the UCLA Film School, the rival to USC. And I started working on low-budget movies back in the days when they had drive-in theaters and B movies. Now the studios make the B movies. And
$200 million.
yeah, $200 million B movies. But anyway, and I did about 12 movies, and on I think 3 or 4 of them, the script supervisor was this woman, Deborah Hill. And one day she called me up and she said that she and this guy were going to do this kind of odd horror film. She thought he and I would, make a nice team. His name was John Carpenter. And I said, oh, well, that's good. She said, why don't you come and meet him? And so I did, and apparently we hit it off. And so the movie was Halloween, and it was a great experience. John was the first director I worked with out of 12 or 14 movies that was really interested in using the camera to tell the story. Everyone else wanted to use the camera to record actors talking, and then something blows up. And John was really interested in the visual use of the camera. So it was exactly what I wanted to do, and so it was a great thrill and privilege to do it.
Dean, it was the first time for Panaglide, wasn't it? Or close to.
Yeah, it was the Steadicam, the Panaglide, which enabled us to really move the camera, had been used a couple times as kind of little showpiece shots in movies. And John was interested in, using it to some new, purpose. And so we did the opening shot of Halloween, which was the first time anybody had done that elaborate shot, and then used it throughout the movie. So it became a hallmark of what we did.
I remember seeing Halloween for the first time. It was a life-changing event for me. I was 13 years old. It's one of my favorite films of all time, my favorite horror movie of all time. And I remember, and I had seen a million horror movies at that point. I was 13. And I remember during the opening shot, like as soon as the movie started, I don't know, 2 minutes into the opening shot, I was like, okay, this is something completely different. I've never seen anything like this, ever. And it put me on edge, immediately. Just because it was all that, just that one take, and I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, it was absolutely groundbreaking. Never seen anything like it. Beautiful job.
The story of that opening shot would take half an hour to tell, but it wasn't just the guy with the camera and the little things that happened. There must have been 15 of us around that camera, and guys jumping in and out of windows, relighting as you went through the house, and then coming back through the other way. It's a long and fascinating story.
In that opening sequence, how many different Michael Myers are there? Because I've read that like Deborah Hill's hand is the one that opens up the drawer and takes the butcher knife out.
That's correct.
And who is stabbing? Do you guys remember who's stabbing?
I think that was Deborah also.
Was that Deborah?
I believe that was Deborah. The blood. I was the blood guy. I had a paintbrush and a bucket and and of course, Will was the payoff at the end. And let's see, when you were looking through the window, no, that was some other guy who was doing the nasty with the girl. This is how we talk on a film set.
No, there's never any profanity.
Nancy Loomis, everybody. You also worked on Assault on Precinct 13, so that was was that your first connection with John?
Yes, it was.
And so did he ask you to come into Halloween to do Halloween?
Yeah, he did. He needed some babysitters, and I qualified. So I didn't even audition. So I can do this.
Let me ask you really quickly before we move on to Will and how he got the part. That camaraderie between you guys in that movie felt so real. And one of the reasons why the movie works so well is because you really give a damn about these girls and like the relationship between them. It just seems so real. You guys must have been really close on the set.
Well, we were, yeah. And the atmosphere of the set generally was pretty close. There was a nice sense of camaraderie. And as Tommy mentioned, and Nick, there was this pretty easy flow in terms of who was doing what. So I worked on the costumes and helping dress the set. And as I'd done on Assault on Precinct 13, it's just the way low budget, independent, non-union feature films were getting made. So
Everybody has 10 jobs.
yeah, and and it was quick. It was really fast, and that's also the way things got made. There wasn't a whole lot of time, and that's maybe one thing that made the opening shot so unusual was that it was rehearsed.
All day. All day.
Yeah, we rehearsed for one whole day. It was a very bold concept, is that we were going to do this one shot. It didn't happen accidentally. It was like we rehearsed it, we worked it out, solved all the problems. Where are we going to hide lights and how are we going to move them when the camera comes around and looks the other way?
It was the old house that had been redressed purely to almost the inch for the frame. If you panned the camera incorrectly, you'd be looking at the old crappy house again. So it was very carefully worked out.
Yeah.
How many takes did you guys have to do on it? Did you have to start over a lot?
3 or 4.
3 or 4, that's it?
Wasn't it? Well, in the movie, there are a couple of cuts.
Yeah.
But we did it in complete takes.
Wow.
And I think there were 3 or 4.
That's
as I recall.
amazing.
Yeah, I remember, I think I would remember 5, but, yeah, because Ray Stella, the camera operator, and I alternated doing the shot. And to this day.
Exhausting thing to do.
Oh, it was.
Like
because-
hand the camera over as you're like walking up the stairs.
No, actually, one person would do the whole shot using the panic light, because you had to strap it on yourself and it had an arm bit. And it was a unique experience, because you had to learn how to lean back and balance the weight and move.
You had to dance.
Yeah, it was a dance.
Choreographed.
And so we alternated. It was such a long shot. Nobody had ever done a long shot like that and worn the device for so long. So Ray and I alternated doing the shots, and to this day, we argue. He claims it's his shot in the movie, but I know it's mine.
In fact, it may be both of yours, because I think there are 2 cuts in the thing using different takes.
Yeah, there are.
All right, Will Sandin, everybody. So, how did Halloween come to you as a child? And how old were you?
I was 7 years old at
7.
the time. And I remember auditioning for the role of Tommy at first.
Oh.
So there was 2 auditions actually. The next one I thought was a callback, but they asked me just to, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill just said, make a scary face. So I did. I didn't know that for what role that was, but then at the end, I think it was a week later, I got the call saying that I got the role as little Michael Myers.
So
Tommy got, obviously, the role was given to Brian Andrews.
Right. Well, Tommy's a wimp anyway. Don't worry about it. You get to kill somebody in the movie. That's cooler. How much of that? So, did you come out of the house? How much of you is in that opening shot? It's just the unveiling, right?
Basically, just the unveiling. I'm out there in the front yard area. My 2 parents walk up. Actually, they're pretty much standing right there. The man that played my father, he says, "Michael,"
Yeah.
and takes off my mask.
What was John's direction for the look that you gave?
He basically just said, "Look straight ahead." He didn't say make a scary face
Yeah.
or anything like that. He didn't. I don't remember him saying, "Hey, do anything out of the ordinary as far as what kind of stare." I just basically just made a normal expression
Yeah.
that I would when mask is coming off, and more than anything else, just when the guy playing my father was taking off the mask, those old school plastic masks with the rubber band around it. If you have long hair, it's going to, and I did, it's going to hurt, because every time it yanks at your hair. So I was just trying to keep from lynching the whole time.
Well, it's a really creepy look, dude. Let me just tell you right there.
Thank you.
Very vacant, very scary. It's Michael Myers. Were your actual parents on set during it?
Well, my mom was there because she's the one that gave me a ride over there.
She's my bride.
That's what you're asking.
Well, I was just in terms of the content of the movie, if your parents were concerned at all. I mean, you only had the one moment where you had the mask. You didn't have to stab anybody for real.
No, I mean, my mom knew what was going on. My dad didn't. I mean, I don't know how much he knew. He just he knew more of it once we saw the movie at the opening. And, we had to leave probably 2/3 into the movie because my little sister was getting really scared. So I didn't really see the rest of the movie, the
Yeah.
whole movie, until it was It was on TV. Don't know if anyone remembers.
On TV? Dude, way to pull that one out of your ass. Holy cow.
So yeah, that's.
Where are you from?
I'm
you
born,
from
I'm born and raised from Los Angeles,
Oh, okay.
San Fernando Valley.
I'm sorry, I just thought on TV was a Chicago thing. I have no idea why.
I'm happy to see that when I look at Will, and he's a handsome young man, but I still see the
Oh,
face.
yeah.
His face is exactly the same. It's
Do people ever
really-
recognize you as an adult? Have you ever been recognized? Like, hey, you're a scary looking dude. Is that
No, not like that.
No?
Yeah, just people that I grew up with. Just over time, just they've always watched the movie, which that movie just became word of mouth, and it just from 1978 on, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it just every Halloween it aired, they would say something and make comment about it. Hey, I saw that movie, thought of you. And now we're talking almost 40 years later. Can't believe that.
That's
And that Facebook, everything else, old friends, everything. They're like, hey, I still think about that movie.
Yeah. Steve?
I want to ask, because this film, as a B-movie horror film, was playing film festivals, and it was winning. It was getting like good reviews and critical acclaim, and then of course it just took off as a fan favorite. But I'm wondering, at what point did, and you can all jump in if you want, at what point did you realize that there was something to this, that this was something groundbreaking, that this was something like a touchstone film? I mean, I'm guessing, Dean, you realized it when every other horror movie after it started stealing that point of view shot that you did. I mean, I'm just wondering, when did you sort of realize that you started something?
I probably really recognized it this weekend. All of the posters, all of the pictures, everything. But no, it's to me been an amazing sort of thing, and I think all of us that we made this film, which was innovative for the time. We made it with enthusiasm and love, I would say, and it's persistent.
Anybody else?
In the cutting room, we knew we were making a good movie. That much was for sure. John was really just this would be his third feature, and he was coming into his own as a director, starting to have a more commanding vision. And he shot efficiently and smartly, and it cut together very easily. It wasn't a complicated thing to do in the cutting room. So by the time we finished, and with things like the opening shot, really innovative and interesting, simple as it could be, but effective, especially when the music. So we knew we had a good movie. There was no question that it was a good movie. We had no idea of what happened after that.
But I always remember, brief anecdote, I hope, similar kind of thing like this. A bunch of us were invited down to USC Film School because John and Tommy and all were whatever they were. And it was probably, I guess, no, it was about the second or third week at least. And the invitation was for all of us to explain to also aspiring film students what it was like to make the first film. So they ran the film. Then we sat up here and questions would come out. And they'd say, so, John, what was it like making your first, film that was, has been recognized? And what was it like? And we all answered sort of questions. And then one guy stood up and said, excuse me, can you tell me why you made this film like this? And we kind of looked at each other, and then Deborah, I think, answered, and she said, well, we put an awful lot of thought and heart and enthusiasm into this because we didn't want to make just a schlock movie. We wanted to make something that really had some quality to it and could be held up and almost considered maybe someday a classic. And the guy said, wait a second. You think this film could be a classic. Why in the world would you make a film like this? How pretentious, and he walked out. I'd love to know where he is now. You know?
He's probably a studio
Christopher
executive.
Knight of the LA Times.
Oh, that's who he is, yeah.
I wanted to mention that you said the word simple, and that's one of the beautiful things about the movie, is that it's the concept is simple, everything is simple, but it's so elegant and beautifully done, and you know, so well acted and so well cut, and everything about it is just technically amazing. It was the first movie where I realized what a director did. I went out of the theater afterwards and I looked at whoever directed it, and I went, oh, that's John Carpenter. It's the first time I ever realized what a cinematographer did was when I saw that movie. So, just in terms of filmmaking, it was just miles beyond anything that anybody had ever seen. And there were so many simple, scary moments. And one of my favorite moments, and we talked about this on my radio show, one of my favorite moments in the movie, it's so damn terrifying, and it was achieved through cinematography. There's the moment where Jamie Lee Curtis discovers all the bodies in the house, and she's in the hallway, and she backs up against the wall, and she's crying, and the hallway is very, very dark, and then suddenly, very, very slowly, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You can see Michael Myers appear behind her out of the darkness. And it's such a simple and beautiful shot. And it scares the crap out of everybody. It gets everybody actually talking to the screen. They can't hear you, but you're screaming at the screen. It's a beautiful, I mean, it was just such a beautiful moment.
Well, thanks. It was, you know, John said, you know, I'd love to somehow do it so he suddenly becomes, you know, obvious to the audience, but not to her.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I have an idea. So we took a little light, put it on a dimmer, turned it out completely, and then gradually brought it up so his face appeared, like your eyes were getting used to the dark. And you know, and that's one of those things that you know, it's so much fun to have that become sort of an iconic moment.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
But also to know that people were yelling, "Get out of the house, bitch!" Don't just stand there.
Going online, my homepage is like MSN, I think, and I'm going online, and it's near Halloween, and it was going, men behind the mask. And I'm clicking along, and there I am, suddenly, on the front page of MSN. I'm going, what the hell? It's before I did any of these conferences, and so I kind of got the feel, you know, that certainly, it wasn't the first time I ever noticed that this character was iconic, but it certainly was the first time that it connected to me.
Okay. Anybody else want to come down? We got mics over here and over here. Let's go over here. You got up here?
Just want to say how privileged I am to be standing in front of you all. Thank you for your contributions to such an iconic movie, and it's affected our lives more than you guys might realize. I don't know. But my question is for Mr. Castle. Out of the million questions that I have, I don't know why I chose this one, but it's kind of a humorous question. A friend of mine, he's a huge fan. He and I have probably watched Halloween together, I don't know, 157 times. And during the scene where Jamie Lee is breaking out of the back of the house, she puts her hand through the glass and Michael is right on her tail. We always tend to joke about how long it takes Michael to get outside the house. She has time to go to the neighbors and bang on the door and beg for help. She has time to run all the way across the street, try to wake up Tommy. Somewhere along there, Michael finally appears in the back of the house. In your, if you could kind of speculate hypothetically, what was Michael doing during that
Right, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, even Michael Myers has to go to the bathroom.
He's a very slow walker. He's a very slow walker. Right. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
So I was just wondering who came up with the idea and why to use a William Shatner mask for Michael Myers?
I guess that question falls to me. The script called for a blank-faced guy. You know, wearing a mask that's a blank. Because our budget was very low, extremely low. There was no question of going and creating a mold and creating a mask and doing all the things that typically are done when you want your own mask. Had to be something you picked up at a store and modified in some way to suit your needs. Well, so I went down to the Hollywood Boulevard, and I always like to bring John a choice, so I had on my mind I would try and bring him 2 masks. So the first one was easy, even though it wasn't a blank face. I thought a clown was an interesting, creepy concept. And so I grabbed an Emmett Kelly mask, which is the old sad sack clown. And then I looked around for anything that might be a blank face, and the choices were Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, a couple of other much weirder choices, including Mr. Spock from Star Trek. And then right next to Mr. Spock, logically, was Captain Kirk, only it just looked like a guy. It didn't look like William Shatner. And I was like, bingo, there we go. And so I took it, modified it modestly, pulled off the sideburns, and painted it fish belly white, opened up the eye holes. And then we had a little show and tell. Guy put on the clown mask in the dressing room and came out, production office. And it was eerie, it was weird. And of course, clowns have been exploited ever since, including movies I was involved with. And we knew that would work. It just was eerie and weird. But when the guy came out with the shape mask, we know it now as the shape mask, the effect was so visceral. It was just, oh shit, that is really scary. Before you get to a story or action, just looking at that was eerily scary. So we knew we had a movie. We knew we had a really scary movie just because you could take a photograph of that and get a reaction. So,
has Shatner ever commented on it? Have you ever talked to Shatner about it?
I've never met William Shatner. I think even now the people who own the rights to Halloween are a little bit leery about really making a point of it. I've done this along with Sean Clark. We did this little 8-minute sort of blurb
They showed it in here
how it was
earlier.
done, how the mask was made. And Sean offered it to the Akkad group to include on whatever the 450th edition of Halloween was going to happen. And Akkad liked it a lot, but was frightened of it. He didn't want to commit anything like that, sort of in writing, if you will.
Yeah.
Because he just, to this day, doesn't know whether William Shatner, I think William Shatner's just amused and sort of shrugs it off.
Sure. Well, he's got to know. I mean, he has to.
Yeah. But I don't think anyone is willing to put it in writing.
Okay. Oh, look at this. We have an older woman. Go ahead. What's your name?
Olivia.
Olivia, everybody.
Whose idea was the head tilt?
The head tilt. Is that you, Nick?
Oh, the head tilt.
This.
Oh, in the scene where the young man is skewered on the side of the kitchen. That was John Carpenter's direction to me during the shot, as I recall, actually. Do you remember it, John?
Yeah, I'll take credit for the duration after the fact. I believe you and John figured out, the appraising your work sort of head tilt. And I just asked John to hold it extraordinarily long time so that you sit on it and go, what is going on in this creature's mind that he would just admire his work like that for so long? Yeah, cool moment.
It is a great moment, and adding to that moment is the breathing, because you got that you're holding for a long time. You also have happening the whole time. Fantastic, great stuff. How old are you?
I'm 9.
You're 9. Who's your parents? You are raising her right, my friend. Okay, next.
It's the last one.
I
I had a general question for anyone. I just wanted to know what it was like working with Donald Pleasence.
I guess I worked with him quite a bit in the film, and oh, thank you. You know, actors, you're only as good as sometimes the people you work with, because they bring you up, and he was just terrific to work with. I mean, to bounce off of. So, you know, I did the looks he could give you. You know, it was a joy, purely a joy, and I'm really grateful I had an opportunity to work with him.
Yeah, I'd have to say I'd seen Mr. Pleasence, well named, in several movies. I think Will Penny was one where he was the crazy preacher, right? Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And so you knew he had this pedigree of working on movies. So you say, okay, here's an established guy who's done the big movies, working on this little film that we're all just barely working on. And, you know, so you always wonder, is the actor who's doing it, is it like a favor? Going to be in his dressing room, he'll come out and say, do one take and disappear. And I was very impressed by the fact that I would look over there and there's Donald walking back and forth, talking to himself. He was rehearsing his lines because he was the ultimate pro. He really, he gave it his all, and you know, as a result, established the character, you know, of Don.
Then you guys both got to work with him again on Escape from New York.
Yeah, exactly. He became part of the stable of you know, great actors that John you know, abused.
He's so good that I never questioned the fact that he was British and he was the President of the United States.
Exactly.
One last question. We got time for one more. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to ask you...
That's set for Olivia, that's why.
I wanted to ask you about how the scenes got added into the TV version. When did that get shot? And then Nancy, I want to ask you, how did you end up playing dead in Halloween 2 for that one shot? Was that because you were shooting those scenes for the reshoots for the TV version?
Oh, I don't know of the connection between the TV version and Halloween 2. Maybe someone else does. I just know I got called to do that because they wanted a link to Halloween 1, and I was I could be a dead body and be that link. And so, you know, I did 4 hours of makeup and 30 seconds of shooting, as I recall.
It was real quick, wasn't it?
That was it, yeah. And that was it.
What was the other question you had for?
About the scenes that were shot
for the TV version.
Because there were scenes that they added in for the TV version. I didn't know if that was shot during Halloween 2.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. The cutting room was long gone, so John handled all of that. I didn't know anything about how it was shortened or what scenes were added or subtracted.
Okay, thanks. We're out of time. These guys will all be outside to help introduce the screening of John Carpenter's Halloween. So right outside there.
That's from John.
That is the greatest intro I've ever heard in my life. All right, give it up for these guys, everybody.